Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Carolyn and today I'm going to be sharing how I take notes on great literature. If there's one thing that's true about all good books, it's that it's not enough to just read them. We must also process them, question them, assess them, remember them, and come back to them time and time again. And one way to help us achieve these ends and to really understand and appreciate a work of literature is to take good notes. A task that isn't always as simple as it seems. Now, I myself am merely in the process of learning to take good notes. This is an art that I have not yet perfected, but I am getting better at it every day, and I do keep learning new strategies and new methods for note-taking that I wanted to share with you today. So in this video, I'm going to share some of my best practices for taking notes on great literature. These are not necessarily original to me, but are tools I've discovered and learned to employ over the years. So what you're going to need is a notebook, some sticky notes, and some sticky tabs. But first, I need to make a coffee. Alright, so practice number 1, narration. Narration is one of the sharpest tools in the toolbox of the classical educator, or the classical reader. To narrate is simply to retell the story in your own words. So in the classroom, the teacher reads a chapter of a book and asks a student to narrate it back to her. In the context of reading a great book on your own time, this may look like finishing a chapter and jotting down everything you can remember about its plot, its characters, and its ideas. Once you've narrated the chapter to the best of your ability, you may want to look up a summary online or flip back through the book to make sure that you haven't missed anything. I recommend doing this exercise either in your notebook where you're taking notes on the book or on a sticky note that you leave on the last page of that chapter in case you need to flip back to it for reference, or if, like me, you're going to be teaching it down the road and you might need these to help you discuss it in class. Practice number 2 is to identify big ideas. This is another tool that I borrowed from the classical education movement. It's helpful in identifying the core of what a chapter of a work of literature is about. So the great ideas are beauty, truth, goodness, desire, justice, evil, duty, happiness, wisdom, family, citizenship, government, knowledge, God, humanity, infinity, judgment, love, relationship, and metaphysics. So for example, after I read a chapter, I might ask myself, what was beautiful about this chapter? And then I just jot down whatever comes to mind. Or I might ask, what truths did this chapter touch on? What did this chapter say about wisdom, justice, knowledge, evil, or duty? You can also do this exercise with pairs of great ideas, such as vice versus virtue, universal versus particular, necessity versus contingency, mind versus soul, time versus eternity, the one versus the many, memory versus imagination, cause versus effect, sign versus symbol, cosmology and worldview, equality and sameness, liberty and freedom, honor and glory, quality versus quantity, and being and nature. So, for example, after reading a chapter, I might ask myself, what universal ideas does this chapter convey? And then I might say, what in this chapter is particular to its context and characters? So again, these lists of ideas are mainly to prompt your thought and analysis of a work of literature. The third practice that I recommend is to complement your reading with research. So another way to get the most out of a work of literature is to do some research on it while you're reading through it. This might look like reading critical introductions, such as the ones that are in the Oxford or Penguin Classics collections. You might take a look at a summary or an analysis of the book online, or you might do some higher level academic research. I recommend jotting notes of all the new or complementary things you learn from your research, either in your notebook or on sticky notes, just to kind of fill in the gaps and to broaden your understanding of the book, and also just to affirm that you're interpreting it correctly, or correctly isn't a good way of putting it, but to affirm that you're going in the right direction, or that you're looking at it in the same way that other people have interpreted it, that kind of thing. And of course, it's great if you have your own interpretation and your own ideas, but it's also cool to understand how other people have thought about it and over time. And yeah, compare your takeaways and your thoughts and feelings about the book with those of others. The fourth really practical practice is just to annotate and highlight your book. To always have a pen with you when you're reading, or a pencil would be even better, but I'm a pen girl, which means that my thoughts are permanently in my books. As you're reading and you come across a new character or name and you need to identify that person, jot a little note about who that is. As you come across a word that you don't know the definition of, look up that definition and jot it down in the book. This will help you the next time you go through the book, or it'll help the person who reads it after you. And it just helps you actually know what you're reading as you go along. So right now I'm reading through the Iliad, and there are so many references to Greek gods and goddesses, or a wide variety of characters in the Greek world and Greek mythology. And sometimes I get confused about who's who, and so being able to define the characters, also because some of them have two names, or it'll refer to them as son of so-and-so instead of just saying their name, it's just really helpful for me to annotate those kinds of things for clarification as I go along. Alright, that's all I have for today. So I actually just thought of a fifth and final tip, which is to jot down any questions that you have while you're reading, just on a sticky note, and then compile that list of questions, and at the end of a chapter, figure out a way to answer those questions, whether that means rereading parts of the chapter, or doing outside research, or asking somebody who knows the work really well. Whatever it takes, get those questions answered. But question asking is in itself an art, and it will just help you think more deeply. If you're asking good questions, it's evidence that you're thinking deeply about what you're reading, and by seeking the answers, you're solidifying and furthering your understanding of the text. So asking questions is just all around a great thing to do. And this is something that I'm actually not very good at. When I read, I don't always have questions coming to mind all the time, which makes me wonder, am I even reading well if I'm not asking questions and wanting to know more? Yeah, some food for thought. I'm going to go back to reading through the Iliad and marking it up and researching it. It's not my first time going through the Iliad. I'm quite familiar with the story, but I am teaching it this year, so I'm giving it a very, very thorough read before I begin reading it with my students. And I'm doing a ton of research and work to understand the context, so that when it comes time to teach the Iliad, I know what I'm talking about. And I'm a number of steps ahead of my students. Hello again. I just want to very briefly share a book haul that I picked up yesterday. I was in the thrift store and I went to the book section just to look, and I found some of the quintessential autumnal novels. Many of them I literally had listed in my Ultimate Autumn Reading List video, so I picked them up because I couldn't resist. So here they are. We have Thomas Hardy, The Mayor of Casterbridge. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I have many copies of this book, of course, but I am collecting them, and this one is so pretty and so vintage. These are absolutely gorgeous, glorious books. Charles Dickens, A Child's History of England. Just look at this. Such an absolutely stunning tome. And then I have a twin book, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Yeah. so excited about these and so excited to display them. They're actually kind of giving me like a wintry Christmas vibe, so maybe I'll put them out at Christmas time. Ideally, I could give them a read before that, but we will see. Then another set of Dickens books, the Wordsworth Classics, Charles Dickens' Bleak House, very autumnal. Our Mutual Friend, oops, sticky. Little Dorrit. And then finally, The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which was on my autumn to read list, TBR. And so I've started reading it, and so far, so good. It's set in New England. It's talking about witches and old houses. So yes, this does seem like it's the ultimate autumnal read, and I cannot wait to dive into it even more. So that's where I'm at right now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If any of these tips are helpful for you, let me know. And if you have any tips that might be helpful for me or other readers of great literature, put them down in the comments below. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it if you would like this video, if you'd comment, if you'd subscribe to my channel, so I can keep making videos like this and talking about books. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.